Welcome to the IVM Podcast Network.
If, like me, you love traveling, you must check out the Rediscovery Project by Hoshnar and Ambika. They talk about their travel experiences around India, and you can catch them every Monday on your favorite podcast app or on IVM's app.
Hello and welcome to Simblified, the podcast which will broaden your horizons and exponentially grow your IQ, solve global warming, make Trump quote Nietzsche, and perhaps finally make the YouTube app play when the screen is off.
And that's something we want most of all, I guess.
So, one of our female fans, by the way, totally imaginary, wrote in saying that they want to hear more about us. So, this episode onwards, we'll state one random fact about ourselves when we're introducing ourselves. Does that sound fun? Yeah, okay. So, I'm Chuck, and I have 1 tablespoon of Tabasco sauce every night before going to sleep.
So, I'm Naren, and my claim to fame is that Manisha Koirala once fell into my arms.
And
was there a tree involved?
No, actually, we were at, I was at some crowded place, and I didn't even know she was Manisha Koirala. She stumbled, and she sort of...
That's what they all say.
Fell into... Yeah.
Old tactic.
But, I said... Not interested, babe.
Okay, cool. Yeah, sure.
And I'm Sriket. My claim to fame is that I almost got arrested once for carrying a watermelon. But
this story will be available on request.
Yeah.
People have to enter the Simblified contest.
Yeah.
And they'll win a dinner with all 3 of us, and Sriket will tell you his story of the watermelon that
totally
almost got
worth
him incarcerated.
Yeah, it is totally worth it. In fact, it's worth a podcast.
On its own. Anyway,
yeah.
So as you probably know, Simplified is a podcast that basically aims at making you appear smarter with minimal effort.
Yeah, the alternative is pouring through IIT JEE books for 5 years, going to Kota to study, getting through the IITs. We are the shorter way out, right? You may not have the multi-crore job at the end of listening to our episodes. But hey, you won't have a widow's quote at the end of a 5-year integrated BTech, MTech degree at IIT Kanpur. So, IIT 0, Simplified 1.
well played.
So over the course of the last 1.5 odd years that we've been doing this rubbish, we've pretty much mastered the art of lifting content of the internet and passing it off as our own with a few cosmetic changes.
I think the marketing degree each of us has something to do with it.
Okay. Anyway, once in a while we get writer's block or podcaster's block, if you will. We invite people who are infinitely smarter than us onto the show. And today we have one such guest.
Before we intro him, it's very important to set context. Companies make hundreds of decisions each day, and as much as we might joke about them on this show, the decisions are not aided by the marketing team's ability to do eeny, meeny, miny, mo, or the whims of the CEO's daughter, but something called market research. So hey, if Domino's has new flavors, it's because somewhere, some people preferred that over another flavor. If Bajaj releases a new ad, it's because the ad was tested with some people who said it was, hey, it's pretty cool. And if Yogi Adityanath became CM, it's because, market research works in most cases.
Yeah.
Anyway, what I'm saying is, market research is very important to many things in life. And we have an expert from this space and generally cool Guju dude, Utsav Mamoria.
Yay.
Hello guys, thank you for having me here, and I'm as much as an expert, but the true fact is that they couldn't get anyone else, so I'm here. And they don't tell you all these things in this podcast, but trust me, that's the truth. Because I know at least 1/3 of this podcast hosts well, so yes. So I'm pretty awesome with what I do.
Sowing seeds of discontent already.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Intrigue gets simplified.
So Utsav and I are good friends. We studied together, and he's been a general good
If
buddy.
that's what they called being at Micah.
Utsav, why don't you start off by telling us what you do?
Okay, so fundamentally, I am paid to understand human behavior. Okay, because human behavior is at the crux of everything.
That's very well put, actually. Yeah.
Right. And actually, what everyone is trying to do here is trying to do some sort of behavior change. Okay. Marketers are wanting to buy a product. Politicians are wanting to vote for you. And musicians are wanting to listen to your music. YouTube wanting to listen to more of their content. And Uber trying to make you more right. Okay. So fundamentally, all of us are actually in the behavior change space. And that is what I do professionally. And I have a lot of science and statistics to back me up. And that's what I've been enjoy doing, and I do it across the world. So my work has taken me to China, Myanmar, Africa, and it's a fantastic space to be in personally. And I've been doing this for 7 years. And I can say that I'm probably amongst the 5 to 10% of these people in the world who actually like what they do. So, and I'm amongst the 0.03% of the people of the world who actually look forward to going to work on a Monday.
Wow.
So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Damn cool, yeah. I mean, it must be great having, like, there is already so much pre-existing science in understanding human behavior, like knowing whether a Leo goes with an Aquarius.
That's very profound actually.
To master this science must be like really great.
No, it's really difficult. I'm looking at your own question of Leo goes with Sagittarius. I thought about it a lot and then realized no one is going to pay me a penny for it. So I decided, let me just drop this line of thought. So yeah, but it's a very good question you asked. I'm very, very proud of you for that. So, shows the depth of your thinking on this aspect.
Very much so.
Very deep, very deep, profound.
I want the next question was
profound. That's what encapsulates our entire sentiment here at Simplified.
Next question was what MR actually is, but I don't think I can get a better answer out of him than what he actually said. So we'll jump into the next thing. Okay. Utsav, so can you tell us a little bit about how market research affects everything around us? Like, give me the examples of the most diverse sort of fields you can possibly think of. These could be things that you worked on, like anything. You gave us a couple of examples, like politicians and
most unexpected fields.
Most unexpected. Or let's start with the most common fields. Actually, what are the most common fields which would consume market research?
FMCG products are the biggest consumers of market research because the kind of numbers they play in, the risk is too high.
For the non-MBA part of our listeners, that's fast-moving consumer goods. But
and for American listeners, it's CPG.
Did not know that.
I did not know
Consumer
that,
packaged goods.
Packaged goods,
Okay.
So things like soaps, basically.
Soaps, So soaps, shampoos, and
Toothpaste.
packaged foods and stuff. So
everything that Baba Ramdev thinks that.
Yeah, but Baba Ramdev is kicking everyone's ass right now, whether you like it or not.
It would be so awesome if they came out with a hair remover brand, no? Baba Ramdev.
He would never endorse it. He's the worst brand ambassador for it. He has hair growing from all sides. With all due respect to the man.
and everyone can see it.
But respect to what he's
Yes,
built.
I really respect for him.
So what type of market research would an FMCG company typically undertake?
So, I mean, they could do everything from a product or a concept test before they want to launch a product to testing the campaigns and communication which, advertising creates, and then you test whether it really works with consumers and does it really communicate what you want to say. To understanding very, very basic things of business, like everything from distribution to understanding how to price a product. So there's a whole gamut of researches you can do, and there's no end to it. I mean, everything you can think of can be researched. The only question is, does it need to be researched?
And in what case would you say it does not need to be researched?
So thing is that I also feel that a lot of times people just misplace their common sense and do things which are extremely obvious. So it's like, you're asking someone sleeping in the hospital that, why are you here? He said, I like the food. Right? So that's like, dude, he's here because he's unwell. No, how difficult is that?
This is actually true. When I was at said esteemed institute, in a moment of inspiration, I thought I'd go to the library. I said, every day I will spend 1 hour at the library reading academic research papers. Like one of those moments in your first year, you feel like doing things like this, no? So I go pick up one fairly nice looking journal, and after 5 pages of research and graphs, the conclusion was 10-year-olds like watching cartoons on television. After that, I've never gone back to that section in the library.
No, I think one of the projective tests, I think, involved some. So we were working at our agency. There was one of the projective tests that were done on one of the brands that we work on, a leading automobile brand. I'll leave it at that. And they did this test across. So some guys came and they did this thing about whether this particular automobile looks like a particular animal. So then the client has all the data in front of him, and he's like, तो फिर ये बाइक जो है वो चीता है कि गोरिल्ला है? And everyone's trying to figure out, because they came up with projective tests. He's like, झारखंड में चीता है, ये भोपाल में गोरिल्ला है, यहाँ पे it is a cat. So now what it is? So this is when market research goes really wrong.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a need to interpret research correctly. Otherwise you come up with shit like this. So this is not the way how research is done.
So you told us
what not to do.
the most common fields. So what are the weirdest fields that have used market research that you know of?
So, for example, a lot of people don't realize that a lot of music you listen to on radio stations is actually researched. Because the question is that you are trying to appeal to everyone from a 15 to a 55, right? And in a country as diverse as India, and if you look at each city, the makeup of the city is very different. Bombay has a lot of net migration coming in. Vis-a-vis Delhi also has migration, but it's a little more homogeneous. Calcutta is a lot more homogeneous. So how do you appeal to such diverse tastes and different groups, right? And that's something is a genuine problem because you at least need a few hours of music every day. And you can't be playing just the new songs all the time. So how do you get people in? How do you get people to stick to your station when the cost to switch a radio station is zero? Right? You can switch anytime. You know, and how much do you essentially pay an RJ that, you need that RJ there? So a lot of thinking goes behind things we just take for granted.
And there are big stakes also.
There are big stakes because a lot of money is running behind these things. So I personally have done music research for radio stations in one of my previous stints. So that's one place it's being used. The other place is things like that. Someone asked me this question that, all this pet food. Right? How do you research pet food? You can't ask a dog whether he likes pet food or not, right? I mean, it's really difficult, right? So there are places which conduct research in this areas as well. That how much would this product work or not. Then there are things like I had a great time once. It was my first month into my job. This is fresh out of MBA, and as a part of our field training, we were sent out to do surveys. So the field guy told me that this is a survey. I need 2 interviews by the end of the day. You have to interview 2 condom users.
Of course.
Okay. So I was like, wow, this couldn't get any easier. So I went to a place, the first half an hour, I really didn't understand how to approach anyone. How do you approach a guy? We are a homophobic country to begin with, right? So you go approach a guy and what do you ask? Hi, can I have a minute of you? Do you use condoms? And he's like, fuck, man. And it's not like I'm looking at a sampling, acha sir, free condom le lo. No, that's not even happening, right? I have a paper in front of me. So it's putting off the other guy. But somehow I managed to figure it out. And this is one of the guys he's talking to. He was very nicely giving me an interview. And you need to strike a rapport, right? With the person. Otherwise, you never really get a response. So the kind of things you learn on field is... there was a question, why do you like this particular brand? And he said, I like this brand because it's an international brand and I feel safe. A very valid answer. So till then, he was having a conversation with me, looking me in the eye. And then suddenly I realized, that his gaze has shifted. He's looking on the floor and all. And then he very sweetly says, she likes the flavors. Okay, that was such an awesome moment because that guy told me something he would not have told me half an hour ago. Right? So market research happens for the most interesting to the most boring products. And I think that's the fun of it because you get to learn and see so much what is around you.
That's awesome. So it's almost like everything that's around us has had market research at some point.
No, not everything. For example, Pierce Brosnan endorsed Pan Bahar. I am sure there was no market research behind it. Okay, and I really hope if there was, the agency should have shut their business down. Because, it was pathetic. It was beyond pathetic.
On that very prophetic note, we have just surveyed all 30 listeners and they have asked for a break now.
Long, long ago, not in Bethlehem, but in a place nearby, there was a wonderful birth of a huge show, which I like to call Cyrus Says. A show that encapsulates everything in human history, from the first Homo sapien to the last Homo sapien, who's traversed the entire world and then come back to India. This is a show which tells you everything about everything. If you want to know, avoid Google, come to us. It's called Cyrus Says. Get new episodes every Monday on the IVM podcast app or wherever you get your podcasts on. You get 1 banana water free with every podcast. Right. I'll just check that.
Welcome back to Simblified, and we are here with market research expert Mr. Utsav Mamoria, and we spoke about what market research is for, how it works, but now we're going to get really into the details of how it happens. So Utsav, how do you start with market research? What is the starting point?
And take a favorite industry if you want to.
Okay, so since we discussed Baba Ramdev a little bit while ago, so Baba Ramdev has had everyone shitting bricks right now, okay, because he has really gone ahead and killed share for most big players. So a typical thing would start from brand manager looking at month-on-month data on sales and clearly seeing that he's losing share. So he checks his obvious metrics of distribution, pricing, and blah blah blah. Realizes that's not the problem, and so he sits down and writes a brief, and which basically talks about what the problem is, what they want to understand, and what is the kind of a solution they can expect coming out of the research. Now that person would send out the brief to his market research agency partners. So any big organization would have multiple partners to work with. Every agency typically over time develops a certain kind of strength which they are known for. And then the agencies will sort of have a discussion with the client, go through the brief, and come up with a research proposal. So that will clearly lay out what they're supposed to do, what is the plan of action, what is the timeline for this, and of course what is the cost for it. So
you mentioned that different agencies are shortlists on their strengths.
Right.
What kind of strengths are these?
So, for example, there are agencies which are very good at product and concept tests. There are some agencies which are very good at testing advertising and communication. There are some agencies which are very good at packaging research, because packaging matters a lot in FMCG when there is so little loyalty and so much impulse buying happening. And there are some agencies which are very good at doing qualitative research, very different from the typical surveys which you see people filling out at malls and stuff. So with time, people understand what the strengths are, and there are always generalist agencies which can do any kind of work, and sometimes work is very, very customized. You want to address a very specific problem or understand a very specific issue, so you have to completely redesign things from scratch rather than taking a off-the-shelf solution.
Yeah.
And personally speaking, to me that is real research, because it's very easy to stand on the shoulders of giants and work. But the question is that if you have to really create something of value, it needs to come from scratch, and it has to have that foundational level of thinking.
Wow, okay. That's incredible.
Yeah, clearly see I like my job. So.
Okay, this stand on the shoulder of giants. I have to share this quote. You know who said that first, right? Isaac Newton.
No, I just know it's Google Scholars.
Yeah.
I also know it's a name of an Oasis album.
Yeah, so
I doubt Noel Gallagher was the guy who came up with it.
So Isaac Newton said, if I was able to see this far, it was because I was standing on the shoulder of giants.
Yes.
And there's this epic, very legendary professor at MIT called Hal Abelson, who said that if I haven't been able to see very far, it's because giants were standing on my shoulders.
Oh man, that was good.
That's something you guys can use. Yeah, so okay, random memory. So forgive the giggling, but
random access memory.
Yeah.
And so on that, the stuff that you talked about, I mean, does market research roughly stay the same across different countries, or does it vary? Like, for example, does market research in India, does it differ very significantly from market research in the US or in the Middle East?
Yeah, a related question. Does the process remain the same across country, and for the same brand, do the same questions get asked across countries, or do they vary?
Okay, so two aspects to it. First, I'll address the across country thing. See, the fundamentals of market research have not changed in the last 50 years, but how we do research has completely changed. For example, technology has made huge inroads into research. Today, instead of doing ethnographies, you do mobile ethnographies.
I think you should explain what an ethnography is.
Yeah, ethnography is basically, interacting very closely with the respondent over days or sometimes even months, and observing them in their daily life, and very minimal questioning, more observational.
So basically making friendship.
Yes, making friendship in non-creepy way.
Non-creepy way,
yes.
Okay.
Except the fact that the guy is also staying in your house and
or staying, or at least interacting with you 8 to 10 hours a day, if not exactly staying.
Yeah.
Because in places like Mumbai, you cannot have someone stay in your house. There's hardly any space for you to stay. So
one product I remember that I don't know how true this is, that apparently came out of the result of an ethnography was Gillette Vector. So the guy, somebody from the market research team was staying with a frequent male shaver or something. And he noticed in the morning that he used to...
Sorry, male shaver?
Frequent male shaver.
Sorry. Hey, you are a male, I will shave you.
It's like a job description.
Wanted.
yeah.
Obviously, he was observing him shave himself on the face. And he noticed one thing that probably all of us have done at some point or the other, but never thought too much about. After shaving, he turned the blade around and he blew into it to get the
Hair out.
a little peel hair out. Then he thought, why don't we actually create a process for this? So then Gillette came out with the Gillette Vector, where if you actually push the thing, it sort of cleans the blade. Apparently, this story was told to me by, I guess, somebody working either in the market research industry or from a prof or something, or somebody from
Could
Gillette.
be a frequent male shaver.
Or a frequent male shaver.
Oh no, there are tons of stories like that. So one of the most interesting ones to me personally is how when products travel cultures, they fail. So I'm not going to talk about those typical Coca-Cola and all those things.
Yeah.
But
for that, there is an excellent PDF online called Brand Failures by
Failures,
Matt Haig.
Yes.
Matt Haig, which is mandatory reading for anyone who is entering B school.
B school, yeah.
In marketing.
So I love taking India-centric examples. So this happened when Maruti had a tie-up with Suzuki in the initial years, and they were trying to get in cars in India. And the Japanese, being the Japanese, very meticulous and excellent at what they do, they had sent the horns to India. And the horns kept failing, and and consumers used to come back and say, "Ki, we've just taken the car for 6 months and it's failing." And what happened was that engineers back home just couldn't figure it out. They tried everything in the book and they couldn't get it done. So finally they flew a Japanese from Japan, and that guy, within 1 hour from the Delhi airport to the Maruti office in Gurgaon, he said, "I figured it out." And they're like, "What have you figured? You did not even run one test." He says that all horns are designed for a certain number of hours. Knowing how Japanese work, they use the horns sparingly. In India, horns are the way to work, the way it gets done. So a 3-year lifespan of a horn is done in 3 months here.
It's like a horn is like a high.
Horn is like a high, or it's more like, I need to get ahead. That's what I'm trying to say here. So yeah, those things happen and you don't realize those things. So,
Wow.
one of the coolest bumper stickers I saw in America. There are a lot of bumper stickers. Honk if you love Jesus. So one guy had put a bumper sticker, "Honk if you love peace and quiet." How can users use market research in their lives if they're not marketers?
okay, so I think it's a very good question. Not because I'm on the podcast, but it's actually a very good question. The thing is that don't think of it as market research. Think of the fact that you are studying human behavior. And we all need to understand human behavior to get through our lives. Okay.
No matter what you do.
Yeah, no matter what you do, right? Because at some point your job is not about your job. It's about people you are working with and you manage, right? So for example, I think it's very, very important to notice things around you. So one of the things which I'm sure you must have also observed is this whole generation of, young people who probably 25 to 35, 40. And what happens is that we all pushed into traditional careers and which we don't enjoy clearly. So what happens is we seek fulfillment out of things which are outside of our careers. But at the same time, a lot of us don't have that much inspiration or maybe bereft of ideas. There are phases in the last 10 years I've observed. So the first phase was everyone buys a DSLR.
Okay. Then they go to Khala Goda.
No. That's okay. You buy a DSLR. Then everyone wants to run a marathon. Okay, so there are these phases every 3-4 years when people seek fulfillment outside of work. Okay, and when you ask them, "Yaar, मैं passion follow कर रहा हूँ अपना." Okay, and it's very funny because if it was indeed your passion, it wouldn't have fizzled out in 6 months.
Yeah.
Right. Now, for example, one of the ways which people deal with stress is adult coloring books.
Yeah.
It's just blown up in the last 1 year.
I've got one.
Right.
Yeah.
So because it's a great way to deal with stress, but a lot of people are doing it because हाँ बहुत stress है life में यार मतलब नहीं है तो भी they still go ahead and do it. So I think you need to understand what's really happening around you, and your key thing is to keep your ears and eyes open. And there are small bits of change happening around you which you need to pick. So this is a conversation which happened with my own mother, and she was visiting us in Mumbai. And this was around time my sister got engaged. So my mom was like, "Okay, you're the younger one, but you're getting old enough. And what's your plan for getting married?" And I said, "Yeah, in good time, but not right now." Next day I come from work and she asked me the same question, and I'm like, "I'm not going to change my response. It's not like what do you want to eat for dinner that I'm going to change it." So it's like, okay, no, I'm a single parent. I get worried, and very valid concerns. A week goes by, everything is good. I literally entered the house. I've turned the key, and she says the thing which you don't want to hear from anyone, which is, "We need to talk." Okay, not boss, not parent, not spouse, not girlfriend, no one. And with the most straight face, she asked me, and let me give you a bit of background about my mother. My mother is 60 now, and she was born in Bareilly and grew up in Dehradun and lived in my small town of Anand. And she asked me with the most straight face, "Beta, kya tum gay ho?"
Nice.
Wow.
Right. Now that takes, if you think about it, it probably took a lot of courage, one. And the fact that I respect her for the fact that she had this conversation, because Indians are extremely uncomfortable about talking about sexuality with their parents.
Yeah.
Right? But you see that change is happening and you need to pick up this change. I'm not saying my mom is representative of the mothers of India. Of course not. But the fact is that if you can pick up these things happening around you quickly, you'll do great in life.
Yeah.
Because you know what's coming.
Yeah. So basically the point you're making is use observation to enrich your knowledge about a fellow human being.
Correct.
Yeah. That's something we need to, skills we need to hone, because in a different context, you could well misconstrue somebody. That's how misunderstandings start.
Absolutely.
You know, you didn't laugh, you didn't smile at me. It's quite possible you were preoccupied. And then
You send me the wrong emoji.
That kind of thing. Yeah.
And I think also the other thing is that you need to understand the context in which people operate.
Yeah.
So we're talking to some users of these dating apps. Okay. And you all try to do UI, UX, this, that. Talking to these guys in Ahmedabad, very fundamental thing they told me. Okay. कि सर देखो ये सब राइट साइड लेफ्ट साइड तो ठीक है, लेकिन मैच मिलता है तो करें क्या, हम तो जॉइंट फैमिली के साथ रहते हैं. राइट, वेरी देयर इज नो स्पेस फॉर देम टू गो. They are kids, they can't hire hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Okay. You go down south in Tamil Nadu and you're talking to a group of girls who uninstalled a dating app. And they said, why did you do that? He said, the problem is that a lot of these guys, when we say no, they don't get it. Now think of where our popular culture is. Our cinema is,
very
right?
much so.
They believe that, you have to hound a girl and chase her to make her say yes.
Yeah.
So those girls got
that's
so
pretty
stressed
much
out.
that's the sort of, what do you call that?
Consent. The entire concept of consent doesn't
trope.
exist.
That's a standard trope in the
So if you look at Ranjana, which happened a couple of a year ago or so, had exactly the same thing, right? You hound the girl till she says yes. So let's think you are a person, you realize that this is a problem which cannot be solved.
Correct. Cultural problem.
Cultural problems.
So on that culturally relevant note, let's take a small break and see you on the other side.
What's the best new restaurant in town?
Which bar sucked?
What's the worst new Hindi film?
What's the most obscure thing to do on the weekend?
And what's the most interesting new walking tour?
If you want to know how to make the most of Bombay, listen to the Podcast by thedailypow.com. We are Pranati,
Amit,
and Purva.
We're your guide to what to do, see and eat in the city. You can find new episodes of the podcast every Monday on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you prefer, and on thedailypow.com.
Welcome back to part 3 of this podcast with my good friend and market research guru extraordinaire, general all-round awesome guy, Utsav Mamoria. Hi, Utsav.
Hi, thank you for having me back. And do not listen to advertising guys. They just use a lot of adjectives.
Wait,
Which
what?
don't mean anything.
What?
You're still an advertising guy, okay? I don't care
Okay,
where
fair
you
enough.
work.
Okay, Utsav, I'm going to put you in a slightly tight spot. If I know you love your job and the field that you represent and all that, but if you were to criticize MR, if you ask Shriketh and I to, despite having deep passion for advertising, if we were to write just 5 salient points on what's wrong with advertising today, I think we would be...
5 salient letters will do that. PFAFF.
I'm sure we can make that expand for something, and we know what one of the F's will stand for. What I wanted to ask you was, suppose you were to say, what are the 5 criticisms of market research? What would they be? Or 3 or 1 or anything?
Okay, number 1 criticism, it should pay more.
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay, but no, it's not a joke, it should pay more. And
very relevant, you're telling this to advertising people. Continue.
I'm only going to come here once, so it's okay. So the other thing is that I think one of the parts I hate about market research is the whole phenomenon of shoot the messenger. Sometimes you really take findings and you know you've done a good job and you give a very fair picture of what's happening. But sometimes the person receiving at the other end tends to take a little bit personally. And I understand, clients and brand managers can be very invested in their brands. But the fact is that you need to realize that I have no stake in pulling you down or making you look good or bad. The thing is that I am more interested in telling you what's really happening and what can you do to change it.
So is there a risk, and I'm sensing I know the answer to this, is there a risk of agencies manipulating results in order to please the client?
Yeah, so it happens, when you present a certain picture of the findings to the client, to make sure that you manage client expectations, to say. And my sense is any self-respecting researcher would not do it. I have never done it in 7 years, and I do not intend to do it. And because I think what is at stake is your own self-respect. I mean, credibility can go take a hike. I'm sorry, but self-respect comes first. And the fact that these things spread very quickly in the industry, so it's bad for business because
and it's a
your
small
client
industry.
will not respect you. It's a small industry. Your client will not respect you, and why do you want to work with someone who doesn't respect you? Right? So, which means you're extremely replaceable, and what you are, what the clients call as a vendor, which we hate as a word, because I am not trying to sell you cold drinks. I am trying to sell you research to help your business. So yeah, that happens. And ethics is a very big part of it. And if anyone has ever considered a career in market research, and if you have tried that, you think that you can get away with fudging data. By the way, I know a lot of people fudge survey data. We are smart enough to catch it and kick you out of our sample. So there.
No, actually, there's a great anecdote on not fudging sample data, but just fudging respondents altogether. Where I think one of our planners had gone for some research somewhere, and he was asking a respondent. So it was in one small town, and there was a recruiter who had gotten a few people there. So the person was asking a few questions, and so the planner was just going through the list of questions, and he was thinking off the top of his head, and he was like, so yeah, that's all. Thank you very much. And he's like, sir, आपने वो brand affinity वाला question तो पूछा ही नहीं.
Yeah. So those are what we call professional respondents who turn up for a lot of researches. And there are very interesting ways to, catch it if someone wants to. For example, one of the things you use is that people try to fudge their age. So if I ask you, okay, let's do this, Chuck, okay? So Chuck, what's your age? And don't tell me your real age.
26.
So let's say 26, okay? Which year were you born?
Oh, nicely done.
Yeah.
Right? You can't make that up. You can't subtract 2017 to 26 at the drop of your hat.
Yeah.
And that thing will tell you that you are fudging.
Wow.
Right? So there are ways to get around it. And it doesn't have to be very scientific. It is very basic common sense stuff. And for example, if you claim to be a brand user, I can ask you, what is the price of this? You have to have some idea about it. You can't be just like fudging in the air. So yeah, that happens, and it is definitely a problem which the industry is well aware of. And embarrassing things can happen. I have heard stories when the researcher has seen the same respondent in two groups within the gap of a week.
Yeah,
and you of course get kicked out of the research. So yeah, it's definitely a problem, and we are trying to. It's always cat and mouse game, and we're trying to catch them as much as possible. So
yeah, but then on the other side, do you think? I mean, with all good intentions, not counting fraudulent market researchers, how much bias can get into your work? So, is there a possibility that a lot of bias can get in, and what can you do to counter those biases?
Okay, so the first thing is that whenever you are looking at any data, see, there's a little chance of bias coming in because the kind of first of product categories you work with, you're not personally invested in them. Okay, which someone like a client will be, right? And despite that, biases will creep in. So, for example, if I hold a particular worldview, let's suppose I'm researching a fairness cream. If I hold a particular worldview, I might, upweight a certain opinion. Especially this could happen if you're working in qualitative research sometimes, right? And so what happens is that because your whatever you are saying goes through at least 2 or 3 rounds of reviews internally, it helps. Sometimes a lot of it is get flat, and it's not genuine, it's not deliberate, it just creeps in, right? The other thing is that whatever insight or whatever finding you come up with, it typically can't go against the grain of whatever else is happening around.
Sure.
So it has to fit in the context of whatever you are seeing. So it's not an isolated finding which you're talking about.
Right.
It's a part of a much larger jigsaw which you need to look at.
In all your years of market research, have any findings actually have? Okay, or rather, let me rephrase that. What have been the most surprising findings that you have found? If that's something that you can talk about without revealing a brand or.
So the thing is that, and I will speak of this from the Indian context because a little more experience there, is do not take anything for granted. Question everything you have. So, for example, you may be thinking you're improving a product, but it could completely go wrong. So this happened with one of big aftershave brands, and they were trying to improve a product and saying that this product will actually burn less if you have cuts. Okay, and eventually it came out that people believe if it does not burn, it does not work.
It does not work. Yeah.
Right? And it's a very wildly held belief, at least in India.
Yeah, it works very much with some antiseptic brands as well.
Correct.
Because some of the ones that I've worked with, they're very simply on the zone that it's less effective if it does not burn.
Yeah. Right. So you were genuinely trying to make a better product, but that's not what the expectation is. So never ever take things for granted when it comes to consumer research.
You told us the condom story.
Yeah.
Are there any fun other cool stories that you've?
So this happened.
So you're bursting at the seams.
We always invite our clients to come witness research because I think it's very important for clients to immerse with their consumers. It's very nice to be sitting in an office and making strategy.
Right.
So,
no shots fired whatsoever.
Slight dig.
Yeah. I want to really call you like armchair, but never mind. I won't go there. So, this is a client I was working for, and it was
Was.
No, I mean I changed jobs, so that's why. No story there. So it was a kids.
Or so you say.
Yeah. So it was a kids television channel, and some guys had come, and we were in Bombay. We were trying to look at SEC socioeconomic classification. By the way, how we classify consumers across the country. So SECC, as we call it, somewhere in the middle of socioeconomic classification. And we were interviewing a child in Chawl in Mumbai, and suddenly we entered the household, and the child has a dog. Okay, and we didn't know that our client is shit scared of dogs.
Oh,
That never came up, right?
Panic level.
Okay. And I don't know, did the dog sense it, or just the dog was interested in playing? The dog started to chase our client. Literally. So you know how a chawl is, right? I mean,
linear, yeah.
It's linear, right? So you go up, down, and the client is running and the dog is running and he's screaming, do something. I'm like, what can I do? It's not my dog. He's not going to listen to me. And it was comic and a tragedy at the same time because I felt
it's one of the situations you really want to laugh.
And you cannot because...
And you're honor bound to feel sort of, a sense of duty.
Yeah, to the field with the client. So, but the client was a great guy and he took it very well. But those things happen on ground and again, this whole condom survey, I had to interview two people. So the other one I talked to, he was very comfortable talking about it. I was like, yeah, great. Yeah, I want guys like these. I can, achieve my sample. And I asked him, so how many times do you buy a condom in a week? He said 3 times. I said, okay. I mean, the thing is that, see, in all these researches, there's always some amount of underclaiming and overclaiming happening. You have to accept that it's going to happen. Okay.
Especially with very personal things
things like this. Okay. Yeah. And the next question was, what is the pack size you buy? And he says, pack of 30. And I'm like, are you blowing balloons with those condoms or what? How can you get through 90 condoms in a week, man? And the thing is, I can't. The thing is, in any other survey, any other product, I would have asked him that, hey, this is not making sense. In this case, I cannot. I have no right to judge what he's doing with his life.
And what if you are the abnormal guy, right?
Yeah.
You don't do it 90 What?
I'm like, oh man, my life sucks.
Okay, I want to end on a slightly philosophical note.
Right.
Utsav. I really like this line you said. Market research is about questioning everything almost. What if you could introduce a market research subject in school, say at around 6th standard or something like that? Purely because I like while I don't intend to teach them quantitative techniques and what's that Fisher Price coefficient that we spoke about. I think the takeaway of I personally think one big problem with India today, especially with education, it doesn't teach kids to question things enough. Right. So things are accepted blindly. Stereotypes. They follow religion for better or for worse. Basically, people don't question authority or question choices that are put onto them, etc.
Yeah, it's not in our culture.
And I feel like through what you're saying that an education of this sort will really help them not learn techniques or anything of that sort, but sort of like to open up their minds and just the end objective should just be to question things.
all of market research is continually questioning
everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything, yeah.
If so, basically, what I'm asking is, if you were in, say, charge of something like that,
Right.
what would you actually suppose it was a bunch of 6th standard. Suppose it was for the 6th standard. What would you possibly introduce?
Okay, so if I were to define this whole field of market research in one line, I would say understanding why we do what we do.
Fair enough.
Right?
Yeah.
The question is, in our education, we are telling them enough what we do.
Yeah.
Correct.
Right? No one is telling them why we do it.
Correct.
And not counting the shady moral science session, which nobody pays attention to anymore.
Yes. So my point is that if I were to design something for class 6 students, I think the first thing I will design is free time.
Okay.
There is no free time for kids these days.
Yeah.
And speaking from my experience, I had tons of free time as a kid.
Yeah.
And I was a geek. I still had tons of free time. I enjoyed studying, but I had a lot of free time. So the first thing I would do is have free time for them. Second thing I would do is take away gadgets from them. Because what a gadget does is, a gadget makes you work and think in a certain way. Because a gadget is limited by its functionality. I would much rather give them Lego bricks.
Correct.
Right? Because it sparks imagination.
Yeah.
Right.
And unless you have imagination, you will not question anything.
Yeah.
Because you will always feel that, yeah, this is how it is done and this is how it is done. Because if you don't have imagination, you will never think of another way to do it.
Very true.
So I would actually first build that, because to me that is fundamental to the way we function. If we are to create a better world tomorrow, we need people who can think critically.
Yeah.
And with the amount of our attention spans are falling, we have way too much content to consume today and way too many avenues to do that. We have actually lost the ability to engage with ideas deeply.
With ourselves.
With ourselves deeply, with ideas deeply. True. I mean, we are far more comfortable reading an article rather than reading a book.
Sure.
Because a book requires so much commitment of time and you need to get through it. Article is 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? And if I may say so, with all due respect, if you think of the podcast itself, you are talking to people who are extremely short of time in life. They want to know a lot of things at the fingertips so that they can make smart conversation, they can appear smart in front of the colleagues. But the fact is that very few of us today have any time, or probably we have ourselves ourselves in a spot that we do not have the time to engage with things deeply. Because real progress always comes from people who engage with things very, very deeply.
Wow, well said.
Well said.
Yeah, I think
I feel like you should start
I really feel like you should start a political party. Thank you, Utsav. Thank you for your time. We had a fantastic time.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Thank you guys for having me here.
Yeah.
And
we hope you've opened up your minds.
I think we can all sign off on the Tata Sky tagline, पूछने में क्या जाता है.
If you've just stumbled onto this episode, then do subscribe to it if you like it. We are on all podcast apps, and if you just hit in Simblified, with a B of course, on Google, ignore did you mean Simplified, and you'll find you'll find us everywhere on the web. Say hi to us on Twitter as well. Utsav is at Utsav Mamoria on Twitter. Tell him that you like this episode.
Yes, please.
And that's
if you have any questions on market research, I'll be happy to answer them.
And yes, he will. He'll actually be very, very happy to answer them. Actually, bye guys. See you in the next. See you in a fortnight.
Yeah. See you in a fortnight.
Bye.
एक्सक्यूज मी भैया, एक्सक्यूज मी.
बोलिए मैडम.
मेन्यू में क्या है?
मेन्यू में सीन अनसीन है, पॉडकास्ट है, ऑन कोर्स है, साइरस है, मेड इन इंडिया, रीडिस्कवरी प्रोजेक्ट, एम्पावरिंग सीरीज, सेक्स वैक्स है, IVM लाइक्स है, सिंप्लीफाइड है, कीपिंग इट क्वियर है, थिंग्स एंड डेस्टिनेशंस है, माय नेबर जकरबर्ग है और द फैन गराज है. आपको क्या चाहिए?
एक बार रिपीट कर देंगे क्या?
रिपीट नहीं करता हम. आप जाओ IVMpodcast.com पे और सुनो ये सब, या फिर डाउनलोड करो उनका ऐप, सब आपकी उंगलियों पे.